All right.
All right, everybody. I'm Dan Kroll, and this is episode 3 of the Britt, Kanawha, West Hancock Athletics podcast. And like always, very creative name. A couple weeks ago, or last month, I talked with Kevin Sanger for episode 1, talked with Steve Everett the second for episode 2, and a lot of views, a lot of people really enjoying the podcast. And tonight, like I said, episode 3, and I have the legendary Denny Brumm with me. We're having a little technical difficulties. His screen's not working real well, so we're phoned in. So he might be a little frozen at times, but you can see him with his West Hancock hat on. So, Denny, welcome, and thanks for being a part of this.
Well, thanks for asking. Hi to all my friends, enemies, whoever wants to see this.
Yep, I think you have a lot of friends wanting to hear some stories from
you. Get along pretty good. Try to anyway.
So before we start our chat, just want to give you some updates on West Hancock events that are coming up. This Saturday is district wrestling at Sioux Rapids. I'll get into the wrestling details on that, but we did qualify 9 wrestlers for that. Next Monday, the 15th, middle school girls basketball at home against Garner. Middle school wrestling at Eagle Grove. There's a school board meeting that night, I think, but there's also boys district basketball at home against St. Edmunds. I don't know if they're going to reschedule that. Tuesday the 16th, middle school girls basketball at Forest City, middle school wrestling at Belmont, and then girls regional basketball playoffs start. We're at home against the winner of Manson and Lake Mills. And then the big event coming up, and I'll get to that in more detail in a little bit, is the state wrestling duels in Des Moines on Wednesday the 17th. Most events that I just mentioned you can find on KIOW.com, or a lot of people like to Facebook Live those as well. The basketball team for the boys finished the regular season 11-11, and that was in large part to a 7-game winning streak up until about a week ago. They lost to Garrigan on a buzzer beater, lost to Newman just the other night, but other than that, they won 7 in a row, and Coach Hiscox has them playing well. Like I said, they host St. Edmunds on the 15th at 7. If we win, we have to go to Lake Mills, and if we pull off that upset, we'll play in Clear Lake in the district final on the 23rd. The girls team finished the regular season 18-5. Since the last podcast, they've lost to Forest City and Clarion, beat Belmont by about 30, lost to Garrigan, then beat Newman to finish the regular season. Regional pairings for them, like I said, they play the winner of Manson and Lake Mills on the 16th. If they win that, they go on the 19th to the winner of West Fork and South Hamilton. And it looks like, based on varsity bound stats, if they win that, they'll play Dyke New Hartford. They're undefeated. That would make for a really good game. Wrestling team real quick here, and then like I said, I'll promote the Sanger Legacy Fund, then we'll start chatting with Denny. Sectionals were last Saturday the 6th. We advanced 9 wrestlers to districts. That's Evan Boothroyd at 106, Kellen Smith at 120, Matt Larson at 138, Kane Zool at 152, Breyer Subject at 160, Justin Osborne at 170. It's a long list. Kale Zool at 182. He was injured in the duel, so we're hoping he's healthy. Matthew Francis at 195 and Cole Kelly at 220. We won the sectional title that day to advance to the regional duels. And then last night were the regional duels, and we defeated Southwind 42-21 to advance to state. And that'll be the 17th. That's pretty neat that we haven't been there since 1987. When we went there in 87, we went against Lisbon, and then that's exactly who we're going to wrestle against in the first round next week. Football districts, still no info on districts or schedules. I'll keep you posted there. All right, the Sanger Legacy Fund was created to honor the late, great Coach Bob Sanger and his wife and former teacher, Mrs. Linda Sanger. They both taught and coached at West Hancock and Britt for about 50 years, and they impacted thousands of lives. The Legacy Fund raises money to help the communities of Britt and Kanawha, and more specifically, the West Hancock School and athletic programs and activities. Please consider giving or continuing to give to the Legacy Fund. You can just go to sangerstrong.com to do that. And I mentioned in the last couple podcasts at the end, but I figured I'd do this at the beginning now. If you want to, quote, sponsor this podcast, just go to sangerstrong.com, donate any amount, let me know about it on either Facebook or email. My email is daniel.e.crawl@gmail.com. Let me know that you did, and I'll mention you on the next podcast. All right, Denny, thanks for sitting through that. I just like to keep people updated on what's going on. So, Denny, you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. So I've been researching
Hope
you.
I do as good a job as you've been doing.
Oh, you're going to do great. I've been researching you. You graduated from New Hampton in 1957. What was it like growing up in New Hampton?
Great place. That's where I pretty much went to school. I came to New Hampton when I was in second grade, I guess, from the little town of Stacyville, which is north of Osage. And then I went to the little Catholic school through 8th grade here in New Hampton. And then I headed toward the big high school. And of course, I liked sports. Never played much sports. I grew up on the farm, and you pretty much stayed in the farm at the time. And when I went to high school, and knowing that the public school kids, they had already, their 7th and 8th grade already had scheduled football. So I just jumped into football as 9th grade, not knowing a whole lot about it like they would have, but it didn't make any difference. One of the interesting was one of the first practices we had, coaches was trying to line up different positions and so on. And again, I wasn't real knowledgeable, I guess. And coach said, "Hey, we need a guard." And I stand there and thought, "I want to play. I'll play guard." Well, the next 3 years, I played guard.
Yeah.
Okay. And those coaches left. And so the senior year, oh, by the way, and we had a great senior class, athletic-wise. And, well, New Hampton was pretty athletic-wise also. Baseball. And big one, New Hampton was wrestling. And I heard about Britt in high school because of the wrestling. New Hampton was sort of like a Britt at that time. But going back to the football, we were trying to decide, okay, who's the coach coming in now? What are we going to get from 1 year, senior year? Well, he came, George Richards was his name. He came from Upper Iowa, of course. He was a Peacock. And he had coached, and he played football there at Upper Iowa. And he came, had some good teams there right in Fayette. And so he came and he had a meeting, all football players who wants to go to football meeting. Here's one of the first things he said: if you live in town, you walk to school. Well, we left that meeting and we were talking. I said, "What do we got here?" Well, it turned out that we got a classic coach. And so we had him going out football then as a senior. Here I was, a little guard. And I happened to be the fastest kid. I could catch a football. And I remember him saying to me, "What are you playing guard for?" I just tried to explain a little bit, He said, "You're going to play an offensive end." And so that's where I went, thanks to him. And I had a good year and got a little recognition from state at the end of the season. So that was sort of the high school part.
Yeah. Did you play other sports besides football then?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. Well, baseball was big there, and football, baseball. I went out for basketball, but that wasn't my sport. Somebody said you had to put the ball through the hoop, and I didn't master that very well. So, but I went out. Oh, yeah, I went out sports. One thing nice about you go out for sports, you never had to take a PE class, so that worked out all right. And yeah. Well, the other sport I might mention, we did not have track in New Hampton when he came. He said, "We're going to start track." Well, we didn't have a track or anything. We just ran around and get marked off the old football or the practice field and so on and track. And we, as I said, we had some good athletes. And that was the fastest I ran in the 100 and the 220 and 440 back in those days. And I was fortunate to go to state in the 220. So that was also, but football was still the main thing there. So here I was, had a good year, high school. And graduate, I didn't really know what I was going to do. I knew college was out. My parents wouldn't have had any money for college or anything. I didn't know for sure, really, I guess what I was doing. And Coach Richards came up and he said to me this: "Would you like to play college football?" And what do you think I said? Yes. Oh, yeah, I'd love to. So here we are. He grabs me, and we go down to Upper Alva, and he talks to the people there, and they knew him and everything like this. And I was fortunate to get a 4-year ride down there. Yep. So that I can handle that. So that's the college part. That's the New Hampton high school part.
Yep. So yeah, and I was going to jump right into Upper Iowa. You played football there from 1957 to 1960. I think I got those dates right.
61, yeah. 57, 61, yeah.
61 is when you graduated.
Pardon?
You graduated in college in 60, right? Yep.
61.
Yep.
So we had so college football was great. I lettered 4 years in that, and had pretty good success there also. And we had actually my freshman, sophomore year, my best. My freshman year, we had a great quarterback. Had to be Terry Stevens. He was third-team All-American. And then this next year, we had another good quarterback who was an All-State earlier. And so we had, I'll tell you, it was just fun playing college ball. And both those quarterbacks I just mentioned were both from the little town of Fayette, right there. Anyway, that was a great time.
Yep. Yeah, I have in my notes, you were a 4-year letter winner, like you said, and you were all-conference, second team in 58 and 59 as a defensive end.
Yeah.
Is that right?
No, we got that wrong. Offensive.
Offensive.
I was an offensive end.
Okay.
I played some defensive end, but offensive end was my, yeah. So I had a good career there.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
That went well.
Yep. Were you guys ever close to winning the conference?
Pardon?
Were you guys ever close to winning the conference in those seasons at all?
Probably my freshman, sophomore years means we had the good quarterbacks. Our Luther was always our enemy.
Yep.
And they probably won most of those. At that time, Luther was the big team. We didn't win any of those, no. But we had a good time.
Yeah, Luther won it in 57, and then it pains me to say that Wartburg won it in 58 and 59. That was our big rival when I was at Central. And then Luther and Parsons won it.
Yeah, in fact, I think maybe us and, I know we might have beat Central back in those days. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Luther was a good one. Yep.
Yep. Looks like you graduated right before Coach Skipper got there at Central, so you never got to play against Coach Skipper.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
He was there for 36 years or something like that.
Yeah. One other interesting note, I'll just throw this out.
Yeah.
When Upper Iowa played, I can't remember what year it was, played Luther, there was, from New Hampton now, there was 4 New Hampton players at Upper Iowa playing, and 3 were at Luther. So there were 7 New Hampton people playing. So that was a big game. We played each other. And the quarterback at Luther was the quarterback I had. He was a good one. He could throw that ball well back in high school. So that was something special, I guess. I remember that particular game, yes.
Yeah.
And then that sort of took care of the other thing is I met my wife, Judy, there in Fayette. She went to school there. In fact, she was from Fayette. Mm-hmm. And we ended up getting married as soon as we graduated. And, of course, we was looking for jobs. And I don't know, we saw in the paper someplace that Britt had a junior high math opening. So I came here, and that's pretty easy doing that way. Superintendent talked to him a little bit, must have liked what I said, and he wanted to know if I would want the job. And I'll tell you, yes, I did. That meant some money in my pocket. One of the first times, yes. And so we came, and Judy was kindergarten teacher. There wasn't anything in Britt at the time, but Clemmy had an opening, so she spent 1 year at Clemmy, and then she came to Britt. She taught kindergarten all the time here, and I taught, started with the math, stayed with that. Going back just a second, and then the thing when I got hired, the basketball coach and wrestling coach both were leaving. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so they were both assistant coaches too. Steve Everett, and we'll get him to second here. And so another Upper Alba, which I went to school with, happened to be John Tierney. He came as basketball coach, and the wrestling coach happened to be some people way back in those days, in my days, Jim Craig, and he was from Iowa, and he was a national champion. He came wrestling. He was here like a couple years, you know, and Danny then, of course, came after that or with that. And going back, we got married. This is a goodie. You know, we had a real good honeymoon. We got married on Saturday, spend Saturday and Sunday in Clear Lake, because Monday I had to be at football practice because, I didn't mention, I guess, they asked me if I'd help be an assistant because those two other the coaches had never played football. Yep. So they asked if I would be able to play football, would help with football. So that was that situation there. And so then I went ahead and coached up under Steve Everett, probably for, I don't know, a couple of years. And then Cliff Woodward was another coach, came in, Russ King. And then when they left, then I also left, and then Sanger came in. So that gets me up to, I think, where I'm at that particular part, the coaching part, and so on. And so, yeah.
I have to ask.
I was going to mention back. Yeah, okay. Going back to New Hampton just a second.
Yep.
We had to play Charles City for the conference champion. Of course, they beat us, so we didn't win the conference Northeast Iowa Conference Championship at that time, but it was great.
Cool.
Football got me where I went.
No, go ahead. Can you hear me, Denny?
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
Okay, we had a little there. I don't think I put this on our notes, but I'm curious. Do you remember what your first teaching contract was? Like how much it was back in 1961?
Oh, hey, okay. Now, remember, now it's back a ways. Oh, you bet you I do. And again, as I said, we didn't grow up with money, that's for sure. So that was a big deal, just get that job. Yes, sir. $43.75.
$4,375?
You bet. I signed that baby right now.
I've been 10 years teaching, and my first contract was like 27,000 or something like that, and I've kept it, and I want to keep it all through my career just so I can look back and see the difference. I think that's just neat to see those numbers.
27,000. Okay, well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that was, it wasn't a whole lot, but and she was teaching, so we did fine.
Yep, definitely.
And out there, and of course, and we raised 3 daughters, so yeah.
Yep, good place to raise them. So,
yeah.
Tell me about Coach Everett a little bit.
Steve Everett?
Yeah, what do you remember about Coach Everett?
Coach Everett, yeah, he was a good one. He was a good one. He had success. You could relate him to one of the coaches like I had in high school when he came in. He just sort of could get players to do where they should be and so on like that, you know. He'd pick out and so on. And, yeah, Steve Everett had, well, as you know, from last week too, you know, he had super teams.
Yep.
Yeah. And he was, yes. Yeah. And
I've been
young Steve. What?
Oh, go ahead.
Then talking about young Steve, I remember when I first classroom I walked into, 8th grade math. Who was sitting in there? Steve Everett, little Steve. Yep. So I had him in class, and then I also had him in junior high. I had junior high football, so I had him in that. We had some good teams there. Yes. So that was my coaching experience, junior high, and assistant coach to Steve and Woodford and King.
Yep. And, you know, people nowadays just think Coach Sanger because he was there for 52 years. But as I was unearthing some of this other stuff from before Coach Sanger era, that Steve Everett just fascinated me, that he just had such a good run of teams. And I was like, man, who knows what would have happened if he would have stuck around and kept coaching football. It would have been interesting to see. So I have a lot of respect for that guy. And I really enjoyed talking to his son a couple weeks ago. So.
Yes, I watched that. Yes, that was, yeah, he was a good, and I'll tell you what, there was some good talent too, back in those days. They won it, you know, they were the team in the conference, yes.
Yep. If there were playoffs back then, do you think they would have fared pretty well at the state level?
Oh, yes. Yes, I would say so.
All right.
Good tough football players.
Let's get into some of the other people you taught with and coached with. I just wrote down some of the people who I obviously know or knew. Mr. Timmerman, Mr. Pauls, Al De Leon, Coach Sanger, Mrs. Sanger, Mr. Grangenet. Do you have any good stories about any of those people you worked with for all those years?
Well, there's a bunch of others too, you know, that you mentioned just some of these, but we were, you know, we all sort of came, we all sort of came about the same time. There are some others I'm just, you know, there's Dave Bates and Roger Gelberg and Will Friesman, and Charlie Ashland and Paul Hauge. I just sort of went up and down the hallway there. I hope I probably left some out, but I'm just saying we all sort of came, you know, the early 60s and that, and we all stuck around. You know, we was like a family. It was like a family all those years. Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, you want to know a story?
Sure.
Back in, I don't know, when it would have been late 60s or I don't know what, well, early 70s, whatever. Halloween time, you know, back there, you know, kids like to raise a little heck on Halloween or come to the school and do some things there or try whatever. Anyway, they had teachers, and this happened to be my night on Halloween. That's one Halloween. I think Dave Beach was taught there, and I think he was the one with me. So we'd go walk around and, you know, just pay attention to you see cars pull around or so, and you sort of look out and see that. While I'm mentioning that, it was almost a little scary in those hallways because you wouldn't remember, but when that building was built, all the outside walls were windows.
Yeah.
So all the outside wall basically were windows, glass. So you'd always get shadows and everything else, and you walk around there, the moon coming in and things. Yeah, that's what it was at the time. I'll get back to that window stuff a little bit later, but that's the way they built those. Back in those days, I think they did that for, you know, get a lot of light in there, so you didn't have to use the lights inside. Economic, but then that passed by, and eventually, of course, they put the walls in like you got now. But here's the situation. Beach and I, we, you know, walked the hall a little bit, and then we'd go in the lounge and sit there and whatever like this. You've seen lights or something, you go walk around that. So we walked around these halls, and the double door that goes to the kitchen area, that hallway that goes to the kitchen area. Okay. Oh boy. We swung open those doors, and all of a sudden, a gun goes off. Well, yeah, I haven't worn those shorts since either, by the way. Anyway, here, guess what? Yeah, inside that, on the other side of that door, who do you think it might be? He was a track coach also, so he had himself a little one of the guns, you know. Yeah, He jumped out and shot that gun because he knew we were there working. So at the time, you talk about being scared at the time, and it turned out to be okay, I guess. So that was one thing I remember watching Coach Sanger. That was, I guess, turned out was sort of funny now. But anyway, that was just fun things there. Okay.
That's great.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Go
ahead.
Then I don't know. I guess the next step then was getting into, after he left the coaching there, about the next 4 years, I sort of went out and officiated football games and so on, about 4 years before the announcing game. about 4 years of that, and I thought, I really miss, well, that time was Britt football. Really missed that. And so I give that up, and at that time, then they needed somebody to be an announcer, and they figured they needed somebody that was mouthy. Anyway, I decided to do that particular job. But talking about press boxes, when I first came, the press box was on just posts on the east side. It'd be like where the concession stand is now. It was a little bit south of that, and it was just up on stilts, like just go up a ladder and go in that. Now, I did not work that. That was before. And that's when the scoreboards came out with a little bit of electronic stuff. I remember Doc Diemer, which would be Jim's dad. Yep. At that time, he had controls, and it was a long cable light, and he had a control box for downs and stuff like that. And he would walk up and down inside the fence now, up and down there where the ball was at, and click then what lawn marker was and things like that. That was, at that time, that was a big deal to be able to do that with that kind of a thing, And then then they ended that press box and was pretty much had it. And they sort of built one, I think it was like in the south of the west side of the bleachers, a little press box up there also. And I started working in that, and I can't remember how many, it wasn't too many years. I remember that one day there was a really stormy weather, and myself and 2 or 3 other teachers, we was looking out the south door, the west wing of the school, the south door. We just looking out there, and this wind or little twist or whatever came. We looked, and there, guess what? That press box was down.
Ooh.
That took care of that press. We saw that press box go down. So that was a thing that happened back in those good old days. So then we needed the press box, and I was sort of in the press box mood. I enjoyed what I did so far, and we needed a press box. So I thought, I'm going to grab onto that and see what I can do. So I sat down, drew myself some little blueprints like, and now we're talking about where the press box sits now, that making a big one. So I sort of worked on that, and the school said, fine, if you want to do something like that. So I sort of drew this out, and basically what it is, it's a big box and with one side all glass.
Yeah.
And something hit me. If we had a press box that big, those windows that they took out of the school, they had them stacked someplace. I don't remember where it was at. And I thought, you know what? Those things will fit up there and make a nice glass front to the press box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and then
so you kind of designed it.
Yeah. And sort of then just, the rest would be just walls, and to try to, how we do those walls and that. And so I was sort of on this thing myself, and I was sort of in the press box mood. I went down to Marty Manufacturing, which is Smidley's now.
Yep.
And they, built those feeders and everything. And he had a son that did play football. I know it was at this particular time. But I talked to them, and guess what? They said they would go ahead and build those walls. They would build like 8-foot sections of walls. So all we had to do. And I worked in that, and a couple others I know helped me. Bob Brangenet was one, and Will Friesman. There are probably a couple others, but we were sort of handy anyway, carpenter-wise. I know I did contracting work during the summers and that. So we can put this together. And so we had those walls. So that was taken care of. The windows taken care of. And so what it ended up is the press box we have now. And of course, now the windows have been taken out, the old ones, and put in there. Joel
Joey Showalter? Yeah.
Oh, Joe Waller, yeah. Remember Window World? He was, of course, he was a student here. And he's the one that donated those windows, which we have now. I guess you're probably familiar with that part of it.
Yep. Yeah, I know. I knew
so, so that's sort of my career there on that. Got anything else you want to say before I got some more to ramble on about? Well, I'm just rambling and rambling.
No, you're good. This is what people want to hear. Let's jump into the PA announcing while we're talking about it. You know me, Denny. I did the stat book for Coach Sanger. I know all the numbers and the records, so I did some digging here. You did 48 seasons of Eagle football from the press box, 72 to 2019.
Yes.
The games that you announced, if you were there for every game, your record, if you were given a record for PA announcing, 182 and 55. So in 48 seasons, you only witnessed 55 losses at home.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's barely won a season. So playoff wise, you're 24-7.
Wow. One of the unique thing back doing, and I pretty well told the custodians, I said, I'll sort of take care of these press boxes. You know, there was sort of, that wasn't my press box, but I really had logged into it, and I thought, I'm going to take care of it. I told them, hey, you guys do your job. Let me just take care of these press boxes. And I kept them clean every week or so. I'd go up there before a game and go in there and clean what needed to be cleaning and get it ready for the game. That was one thing I just did. And one other thing, way back when they had a scoreboard, one of the first, the old scoreboard, and just that for lights, it just had regular bulbs in it. It's regular light bulbs screwed in, you know, to form all your letters and so on. And I said, I can take care of that. And I had Will Friesman. He was pretty handy at that also. Good friend. And if some bulbs went out, I'd get hold of him and he'd grab a ladder and he'd go up there to the press box and I was in the press box. He'd be at the scoreboard. I'd turn on and go through all the different items. And when the ball was out, he'd take it out, screw in another bulb. That was just, as I said, just regular light bulbs at the time. How things have changed now. So that was one thing that we did that young people wouldn't understand that kind of thing, I guess. But great times.
Yep.
And yeah, the other thing about, and as I was going on year after year, my wife and I talked about, how many more years are you going to do the announcing? Mm-hmm. Well, I said, can you still hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
I got something here. Connection is timed out.
Oh, I can still hear you.
Just a minute.
I think you're still on the phone. So.
Can you hear me on the phone?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, I don't have a picture now. Do you have a picture of me?
Yep, it's still, but yep, let's keep going. You're good.
I don't see it here, but okay.
Yep, keep talking. You're good.
Okay. Let's see. Where was I at here now?
Talking about how many more years you're going to do the announcing.
Oh yeah, yes. And I just made the comment. You know, I said I'm going to work until Bob Sanger decides to hang it up. Also, well, unfortunately, I didn't mean hang it up, but it turned out. But I didn't mean that kind of what happened, of course. But yeah, I got my 48. I had 4 years before I started, and I got to 48. So, you know, I was there 52 years, like, you know, that part of it. But
yep.
So it was time. It was time for me to go and with this virus and everything. I didn't really want to be in the press box, so that sort of took care of that. And that was sort of how things were at that thing. I'm trying to. Oh yeah. Then we got into the officiating part. Is that one of the next?
Sure. Yeah.
Things I got involved in.
Yeah. Tell me about your officiating career.
Well, okay. Actually, I started in Upper Iowa. One of the physio ed teachers that was there and so on, he was an official. And he just talked to me once, why don't you like to become an official? I said, sure, why not? So I signed up the association. That would have been in 1960, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so I just worked a little bunch of right around there, little towns right around Fayette. I worked junior high games and so on. And I enjoyed that official. So I came to Britt, and my first game, 1961, the principal that we had here was leaving, and he did officiating. And he had a schedule of games for that year. So I got to take those games over because he was leaving. Anyway, my first game was the big city of Cylinder, Iowa. You know where that's at?
Yep.
The big Cylinder, that's my first game. I remember going to that. That was quite something there. The gym, was small, and that's where the out of bounds were out against the wall and stuff like that,
Yep.
But anyway, I got officiating. A couple unique other ones, I think, was Buffalo Center and Lake Mills both. Their gyms were on the stage in the auditorium. That big stage. That was, when I saw that, I thought, wow. But anyway, that's all changed. And so I had all the 30 years of that, and I had a partner, Claude Post from Belmont, and we worked, and evidently we were, as you might see here on what you had here, we did good enough that we were asked 16 times to work in the state tournament in Des Moines. And that was, and that's my next big thing. My next thing I really remember is when I first stepped on the Vets Auditorium for the first game, it was like, wow. I mean, just like it hits you like, wow. So that I just remember that clear. And so we had a good officiating did on that, and I guess we got some honors. So
yeah. Just to go through those honors, in 1998, you were inducted into the Upper Iowa Hall of Fame officials category, and you're also in the Boys and Girls Union Hall of Fame for officiating. Like you said,
yes.
16 state tournaments, 8 boys, 8 girls. Did you ever ref in a state championship game?
No, the closest I got was semis.
Semis? Cool. That's still a pretty neat honor.
Well, I mean, it's an honor. It's a thrill just to be out in that big, especially Vets Auditorium. Back, those people that remember that place. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Quite a place. Yep. And talking about Upper Iowa, Steve Everett, my coach back home, George Richards, my high school coach, Bob Sanger, and Steve Everett. We are all Upper Iowa Hall of Famers. Steve was also in there, and Bob Sanger. Yep. So, at one time there was like, talk about being peacocks. Steve Everett was, Bob and Linda Sanger, peacocks, my wife and I, peacocks, and then Coach Richards, peacock. So I guess Timmerman. You get the good ones, you can get them, right?
Yeah. Yep. Wasn't Coach Timmerman from Upper Iowa as well?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Yep. Coach Timmerman, yeah. In fact, he was from Fayette himself, yeah. Well, so was Coach Everett. He came from Fayette. My wife came from Fayette, the big town of 1,200 people.
Yep.
Upper Iowa. So I'm putting a plug in if anybody wants to go to a nice little small school, Upper Iowa. Nice. You realize that Upper Iowa University is the oldest west of the Mississippi.
There you go.
Started in 1857. I'm just putting a plug in for my peacocks. Yes. Yep. They were good to me. Yes.
I'll have to share this with Upper Iowa University and tell them that they're getting some free advertising.
They got, yes. Let's see, there was one other thing I was going to, talking about coaches. Let me go back a little bit. The first 3 years, I was a guard, with these coaches.
Yep.
And I thought they were coaches, and like anything, until we got the Coach Richards. And I'll just tell you this right here. There are coaches, and then there are coaches. Mm-hmm. And like Coach Richards reminds me of another, well, Steve Everett also, but another coach, Bob Sanger.
Yeah.
I mean, all three of those, they were coaches. You understand what I mean by that?
Definitely.
Yep. Well, I got that. That sort of sums up what my life was about. Well, one tragedy. I don't know if you noticed or not. Past October, our oldest daughter passed away in Arizona. So that was a tragedy we had.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
that's the good Lord wanted our guests, and so we're doing okay. We're doing okay.
Good. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I did hear about that back in October. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, something you don't expect kids to go before us oldies, you know. But that's that happens, and so yeah. So but we're doing fine, and things are going all right. And we're staying here with this kind of weather. We're staying in the house.
Oh, it's
besides
terrible.
Virus and cold
Yeah,
weather.
yeah. Denny,
So
I tell you what. Oh, go ahead.
So
I was gonna say I don't think you even know how many people appreciate you and Judy. Going back to your PA announcing, it was a big deal for me as a high school player to get my name announced by you for a tackle. And I didn't have many tackles because I didn't play much defense my junior year. Then my senior year, we were just killing people, and I didn't play much because we were up by 50 at halftime. But when you said crawl on the tackle, that was a big deal to me. You have no idea how much we appreciate how well you did your job.
Oh, didn't I call you? I thought I made your name up a few times, didn't I?
Yeah. My parents paid you off.
Yeah. I look at that press box announcing that was my Friday home away from home. Yep.
And I don't know if you even know this, Denny, but there's a push right now. There's some people, myself included, that we have been trying to talk to the school about getting the press box named the Denny Brumm press box. I think that is a very necessary thing.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
So we're keeping our fingers crossed and put a little pressure on them there.
What do I say? I mean, nothing. I can't say it. I mean, just even thought of that. I don't know. Deserving of that.
Oh, you just told the story. You built the whole thing. I think that alone, let alone 48 years, that's enough right there.
Well, it was great. I guess I can't complain. I've pretty good life. Things have gone pretty well. I got to go to college and got to play football and referee and got some honors. It's been a pretty good life for both of us here. And I tell you, I remember when we first came to Britt, teaching, you just think, how many years we'll be here and go on, this kind of thing. Well, we just got here and got to school and never wanted a big school and just settled here. And first kid came pretty soon, and great little place to be and a great little place to raise kids back,
Yep.
That's the way it was back then. So we stuck around and time went really fast. Yep.
And,
so that's sort of.
I'm good.
I can't think of much else that I've. Hope I didn't leave anything out too much here.
No, I think you had a lot of great things to say. One game I want to bring up to you about, two games actually, to see if you remember these.
Yeah.
1973, the first state championship team. At home, we beat Osage 88-14. Coach Sanger told me that some Osage people have never forgave him for that game. Do you remember that one at all? 88-14 against Osage?
Oh yeah, I remember that. And while you're talking about that year, Postville.
Yep.
I remember that specifically. Postville came over here for playoffs.
Yep.
And they had big guns. They were supposed to have big guns. Mm-hmm. Well, we found out we had bigger guns. I remember that particular game because they were coming over and supposed to take care of us. Yeah, it's the big linebacker, whatever.
Yep.
I remember that one.
36-8. Yep. Yep.
The way?
The score of that game was 36-8. We beat Postville. Then we went and won the state title at
Okay.
Kinnick. Yep.
And I remember going down to Iowa City, and we were supposed to be. I remember we were supposed to be underdogs to Mount Vernon. They had a couple of, I think they're Huff brothers or something. I don't remember for sure, but they were big going to Iowa and everything. They were supposed to be, take it all. Well, guess what? What was that score? You got that? I can't remember.
34-13.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dominated. And I might as well throw this in there. I think we stayed at I don't remember what motel it was at, but, after that, you got a party at a motel, in the big area. And what was sort of cute is Dowling, I think it was Dowling won the big one there.
Yep.
And there were, this is funny, there were some nuns there, okay? And they were nuns. You could tell they were nuns. They were dressed, and they were having a good time, and we was having a good time with them. And I remember that big party with the nuns, Of course, I grew up with the nuns in school, but yeah. But anyway, I remember that. That was a fun time.
Yep. I have a good story about that game for you. I don't know if you even know about this. That game almost didn't happen. The Britt team was late to the game, and for that reason they just didn't get there on time, and they said you have like 10 minutes to get stretched or you forfeit or we're going to start the game or whatever. And they said after that, Coach Sanger got to games like 2.5, 3 hours before a game started or whatever it was because of that game, because he never wanted to be late again. And so I'm like, could you imagine the 73 championship team might not have even happened just because we didn't get there on time. So,
wouldn't that be that'd be hard to forget.
Yep. And I was a head football coach for 2 years, about 10 years ago, and I would leave at the same time Coach Sanger always had us leave. And I just thought, well, that's how you prepare for a game. And then I found out from John Swenson this fall, he goes, no, we were almost late for that game. So after that, he just made us leave way, way early to get to games on time. So that was
my gosh, yeah. Yep. So you never missed a game then? You got there in time?
Oh, my assistant coaches were like, why are we here so early? I'm like, that's what my coach always did. So I just went by what he did. And then the last game, the other game I want to ask you if you remember this. 1995, Justin Palmer, 3 fumble recoveries for touchdowns in less than 2 minutes. Do you remember calling those?
I don't remember, but I see the sheet you gave me. I don't remember calling those, but
yeah, that's just crazy.
That's unreal. Yeah.
Yep. And you've seen, like you said on the phone the other day, you've seen so many games they probably just blurred together. So I kind of made a list and.
Well, I don't think of anything that really stands out like Sanger shooting the gun off or me stepping on the floor at Des Moines or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Crazy. And you said you wanted to go out when Sanger went out, and we know obviously how that kind of ended. But just to your last season being a state championship, you got to call 3 state championship teams, 4 runner-up teams, 3 playoff teams. You saw a lot of good football up from that press box.
Yes, there was. That was great bunch. Yeah. One other thing, let me throw out. This is quite unique, I guess. Yeah. Going back to refereeing, we worked most of the games around this area, some of the smaller schools. We didn't get into the great big 4A schools and so on.
Yeah.
And so we just worked the small, and that was fun working those smaller ones. And there were schools that you like to work at. Some are better to work at than others, and some coaches are better than others. But whatever, you take what you get. Anyway, after quite a few years, we thought, well, maybe we should get up into 4A ball. Some of the bigger schools, We thought, hey, we can handle those things, all right. So I replied to that conference with Waterloo schools and Fort Dowdy, whatever with those. And I remember, I think when the first game we got assigned to was East Waterloo. And so we thought, okay, we'll go down to East Waterloo, which wasn't the best part of the city at the time, somewhat. Good enough part, but it was, So we didn't think much about it, get out of our car and go to the front door, and guess what? There's a policeman. He he said, "You come with me." So a policeman took us to our locker room or our dressing room part,
Yep.
locked the door, time for the game, policeman come, take you out to the floor, walk you back in. When you leave, they take you to the door. And we thought, you know something? We don't need this.
No.
So we said, we're just going to go back and work the smaller schools, fun games around here,
Yep.
small ones here, and then, 3A schools, Spencer, and, some of the little bigger schools. But so we worked a lot of them. Anyway, good
How many,
work,
How many technicals and ejections did you have? Did you toss some people out of the gym?
Oh, man. I can't remember throwing anybody out. There were some technicals.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There were some technicals. And there's some games you went to knowing the coach, you knew he was going to get a technical.
Yep.
But whatever.
Yep.
But I can't remember throwing anybody out of the gym. No, I can't remember that. It might have happened, but, you're talking when you're 82 years old, you forget some things.
You said 42? Is that what you said?
Yeah, right. 42, yeah, put 40 on, yeah. Anyway, but get along fine.
Yeah, good.
So this thing, yeah, so I had a lot of fun things happen.
Cool. Denny, I have a Facebook group with some guys that are kind of hardcore West Hancock football fans, and I asked them, do you guys have anything you want to tell Denny? Brian Nedved said that Denny and his wife Judy were great role models while we grew up. I always enjoy talking to him when I get a chance. You might know this guy, Kevin Sanger. He said the Brums are great people, great role models. They were great teachers. Kevin McDermott said I liked his jokes, and I remember him being a great referee for our junior high games. There were just a couple of the guys that wanted to say something to you on this podcast. So you have tons of people that think the world of you and Judy.
Well, that's nice to hear. We tried to make it fun. I tried to make school fun for the kids, and I think I got along pretty good with most of them. Yeah. But
what were the names of those things you used for math? Benny binomial or something like that?
Oh my gosh. Benny binomial.
Yep.
And Trixie trinomial. And there was another one we called Freddie Factor. We didn't use it, Freddie Factor. It had all to do with, do you remember algebra? It had all to do with factoring and trinomials and that. Taking a trinomial and putting into factoring it and putting it into binomials. And from binomials, it went to trinomials if you multiplied it out. You remember all that, don't you?
A little bit.
So
I wasn't much of a math guy.
And put names on those things. And I think I made a little picture of what it looked like. Because if you take, I don't know if you can tell. If you took, you know what two binomials look like side by side?
No.
It's like, okay, parentheses like an x plus 3 with parentheses around it, and next to that was like an x plus 2 or something, parentheses. Yeah. Then when you multiply the first and the first, and the last number, put a little arc there, and then you mark the inside 2 and bring it down like that. It looks like a little face.
Yep.
The eyes above, and the mouth like below there, and so it looked like so we called him Benny Binomial. I think I made a little bookmark, a little, I don't know, construction paper or something. Made everybody one with that picture on it. Here's a bookmark for you. So that was, nice. Oh yeah, that was just something different. But a lot of kids when they see me, oh yeah, we remember Benny Binomial.
Yep,
but, it worked for them. It worked for them to do the operation.
Yep.
So you missed out on that.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so they were our friends, Benny and Trixie. Yeah. Yep, and you know what? Yeah, one girl from Kanawha, Katie. She come one day and brought these in. She made a little boy doll. This was, just soft, and a little girl doll, and had on there Benny and Trixie. And you know what? I still got them. She gave them to me. I still got them. Yeah, I'd like to give them back to her. She can have them now. So anyway, those are just some highlights here. You're probably getting time to,
In a few minutes. You just made me bring up a good question here. So you said something about a girl from Kanawha. What was that like when Britt and Kanawha merged? Was that a tough thing to do? Was it pretty easy?
It was just, yeah, you know, you've heard of other towns having squabbles and problems. No, we just got together with this. I can't remember any problem at all, which is great, you know.
Yep.
It just gelled, you know. Sure, there are a few people complain, but you know, some communities when they do that, they get downright fights almost, you know.
Oh yeah, it's usually the parents.
We got a good combination here, and so far we're not a big school, but we're going to it, and we get a lot of football players out.
Yeah, it's crazy.
People can't think the school our size how come we get so many out, but so it is. You bet.
Yep.
So
my my family's in Buffalo Center. My brother went to North Iowa, and he'll comment once in a while, and he goes, "How have they been so good for 35, almost 40 years? They just constantly put out good football. Lately, good wrestling again. Basketball's been really good. Track wins champions. Just forward how a small school can be so good at everything all the time. We're pretty spoiled."
Yeah, I know when I came first year, basketball wasn't real big. Boy, they sure come on lately though and stuff. And of course, wrestling was big. Well, Al De Leon, yeah, won't forget him. He came then with, I think he might have worked 1 year under Jim Craig, and then Craig and Tierney both left. They went in Chicago area, and then De Leon took over the wrestling. Then I think Steve Everett was the basketball, when he football, I think he was basketball coach for, I want to say a couple of years or something, I think. So, you know, things that just come to my mind here quick that happened on that. Well, Claude Post, my partner, he was a coach in Buffalo Center.
Yep.
When we hooked up.
Claude was. Yep. Yeah, I've heard some stories about him from a guy named Russell Buss. He just passed away last year, and Russell would always have some Claude Post stories to tell. Russell Buss played back then. He passed away last year sometime, but he would always tell some Claude Post stories. So I heard quite a few stories about Claude.
Oh, yeah. He had good teams. I tell you, back in those days, Buffalo was contenders.
Yep.
Yeah, they had some good athletes come through there. And I officiated a lot in Buffalo Center.
Yep. I was going to tell you.
But I'm not going to say what. Well, I'll tell you, that was a good place to work. Very good place to work. People were great.
That gym off the stage is still there. They use it for like PE classes, but it's still there. So
that gym, I mean, that was just like, you know, other thing I thought about nice is the fans get to sit in the seats like that and watch a game.
Yep.
And they didn't have to sit on bleachers. Yeah. But that really surprised me. I knew gyms were small, but how things have changed, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right, Denny. Well, unless you have anything else, I think we're going to kind of wrap things up. I'm going to promote the Sanger Legacy Fund. If you want to go to sangerstrong.com to donate. If you choose to donate and you want to sponsor this show, just let me know via email or Facebook, and I'll mention you on the next episode. Speaking of the next episode, I'm going to be talking to the first ever 4-time state wrestling champion in Iowa history, Bob Steenlidge. He was actually the second ever nationally to win 4 straight state titles. That'll be on the 24th. And then I have about the next 8 episodes lined up. I'm going to be talking to Jim Diemer, Coach Perkins and Steve Perkins, hopefully, Mark and Jim Timmerman, Rick Sanger, Don DeWaard, the 1986 girls state champion golf team, John and Justin De Leon, and then just today I lined up Stacy and Seth Gopal to be one of my midsummer episodes. So those are the episodes I have coming up. But Denny, I'm really glad that you joined with me to talk. You had so many great stories and cool things to tell. I think that story about building the press box was the best part of my night, just hearing how you kind of took that over. So that's pretty neat.
Well, there was something, yes. And go back, Bob Steenlage. He was a senior. I remember him when I came. So I got to see him do his 4 years, or 4th year, yeah. Yep.
And I'm really excited to talk to him in a couple weeks. to hear. I mean, that's a big historical thing that Britt got to be a part of as the first 4-time state champion. So, yeah.
Well, isn't that something? Yes.
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Like I said earlier, Denny, there's people pushing right now. We want that press box named after you. So I think that's.
Don't have to worry. I don't know. Didn't do that much for it. But,
you deserve that more than anybody. I think that'd be has a nice ring to it, and it's something that would be well deserved for you. So, all right.
Well, I don't. Well, what do I say? Well, I so appreciate the visiting with you. I hope I didn't rattle on too much, but
no, it was great. I
anyway,
heard some great stories, so people are going to really enjoy hearing about it.
Some people call it, some people that see this will remember the good old back days there, and the younger people here wouldn't understand what we went through back then. It was great, and I thank you much.
I thank you, Denny. I appreciate it. You tell Judy hi and stay safe.
Okay, I'll tell Judy hi. Here she is.
And thanks to Carrie Terhark. She came over to help get the technology set up tonight. So she's now your favorite.
Well, I'll tell you what, I would never been able to do what she did. With your instructions you gave me, it sounds so easy.
Yeah, it just depends on the technology. Who knows? So
I know you got a good one here. Yes.
All right. Thanks, Denny. Have a good night.
You're back. Okay. Thank you. Goodbye.
Yep. Bye.